Singh's comments, and Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai said that the remark has exposed Congress's mindset and that this mindset has caused the Aksa loss for India. He even demanded an apology from the Grand Old Party. In fact, Kangana Ranaut, one of BJP's star campaigners, has also slammed the remark, saying that the same Congress mindset has led to underdevelopment in rural areas during this rule. In fact, staying on the story, we have some breaking inputs coming in.
एक बात सुन लीजिए, वहां के उस द्वीप पे कोई रहता है क्या? मैं पूछना चाहता हूं.
All right, we're getting in breaking inputs. In fact, CNN News 18 has spoken to Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav with regards to Digvijay Singh's remarks on Katchatheevu. The Chief Minister, in fact, has said that Digvijay Singh has always practiced politics of national disinterest. He says that people will answer back as far as Digvijay Singh is concerned. Let's also listen.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We start tonight with the India-China competition, not the political or strategic one, but the economic one. The two countries have had contrasting fortunes. While China's economy is struggling, India is flying high. So everyone is asking the obvious question, will India replace China as the engine of global economic growth? A new report says yes. It also tells us when this could happen. Stay tuned to find out. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping hosted a very important guest this week, a former president of Taiwan. What did the two men discuss? And how will it impact Xi's reunification plans? In South Korea, it's election day. President Yoon faces a major test as he seeks parliamentary majority. But in Nepal, people want the opposite, an abolition of the republic and a return to monarchy. Why is that, and how will it affect the region? In India, election campaigning is on in full swing. The ruling BJP has invited 25 political parties from other countries to observe the Lok Sabha polls. Who got the invite and who did not? We'll tell you. In the US, another fatal blow to abortion rights. A law from 1864. Europe, Champions League football is on the Islamic State's radar. In South Africa, former President Jacob Zuma is back in the fray for elections. And finally, what is the silliest AI product you can think of? We have a list for you, but first the headlines. Is Israel running out of allies? US President Joe Biden says Prime Minister Netanyahu making a quote-unquote mistake in handling the Gaza war. It's Biden's sternest criticism of Netanyahu. Spain calls Israel's disproportionate response in Gaza a global threat. It happens only in Pakistan. A commercial flight carrying Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif diverted from Islamabad to Lahore to disembark the VIPs. Shehbaz Sharif was accompanied by his defence minister and Punjab Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz. There were nearly 400 other passengers on board. The profits of TikTok owner ByteDance jumped around 60% in 2023. With this, ByteDance has overtaken its arch rival Tencent. The TikTok creator has grown into one of the world's biggest tech firms. ByteDance is estimated to be worth around $225 billion. Setback for Russia's space program. Moscow cancels its rocket launch for the second consecutive day. The high-profile launch was cancelled just minutes before liftoff over a suspected software glitch. A third attempt will be made on Thursday. And in a first, Olympic gold winners will now receive a cash prize as well. The winners of the Paris Olympics will get $50,000. From the 2028 Olympics, silver and bronze medalists will also receive prize money. This is the Asian century. How many times have we been told that? But Asia is not some united entity. It's a massive continent of almost 50 countries. So the Asian age could also be the age of competition. China won the first 2 decades. It became the engine of global economic growth. But can India win the coming decades? A new report says yes, India can. India could replace China as the driver of global growth. And when could that happen? As soon as 2028. Now, just to be clear, this does not mean that India's GDP will overtake China's in the next 4 years. It means India's contribution to global growth will be higher than China's in this period. Basically, India will become the growth engine. And what is driving this change? Well, broadly, two factors: China's fall and India's rise. As simple as that. Look at this new report by ratings agency Fitch. They have downgraded their outlook on China. It was stable before. Now it's negative. And why is that? Because debt is rising and growth is slowing. In 2019, China's debt was 38% of its GDP, but now it's almost 50%, 56% rather. And by the end of this year, it could be 61%. At the same time, growth is falling. China grew by just 5.4% last year, and this year the projection is 4.6%. So the Chinese economy is losing momentum. Meanwhile, India is gaining it. The Indian economy is projected to grow by 7% this year, and don't forget the political headwinds. Many suppliers are moving out of China. They're scared of crackdowns and sanctions. And India is gaining from this. Just look at Apple. China has long been their top factory, but now Apple is diversifying. They assemble 14% of their iPhones in India. Take 7 iPhone models, chances are one of them was made in India. And this output is worth almost $14 billion. So China's loss is India's gain. But you cannot rest on those gains. You must build on them. The same report also mentions two things that India must do. First, continue the infrastructure push. And second, invest in human capital, basically skill and educate the people. The infra push has been a key priority for the Modi government. In this financial year, around $132 billion has been set aside. That's 3 times the allocation 5 years ago. And what will this money produce? Roads, highways, railways, airports, seaports, waterways. Things that will multiply economic growth. Better roads equal faster trade. Faster trade equals time saved, and time saved is money made. Another factor that works in India's favor is federalism. Indian states love to compete. Sometimes that competition can turn hateful and toxic, but in the long run, it can also help. It pushes each state government to do better than the other. Again, data supports this. 8 Indian states are expected to become trillion-dollar economies by 2048. What does that mean? These states will have a GDP of $1 trillion each. Now, to put that in context, India's current GDP is $3.3 trillion. Now, some states are hoping to touch $1 trillion on their own, expected to reach first by around 2040. Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh will follow. Of course, this is a projection. It requires consistent and rapid growth to achieve this. But compare it to China. Forget adding to the growth. Local governments are dragging China down. If you add all this together, the takeaway is quite clear. India is poised to replace China, to become the engine of global growth. And I know it sounds great, but it's also important to not be complacent because challenges still remain. One of them is investor confidence, not in the stock market because that's booming, but in Indian startups. A new report says India's unicorn count has dropped. A unicorn is a startup valued at more than $1 billion. Since 2017, India has only added unicorns. But now the opposite is happening. India's unicorn count fell in 2024. The country has only 67 unicorns left. But that's not the most worrying part. More than 130 unicorns were founded by Indians. But they set up these companies outside India. And that should raise questions. Why did they not set up shop in India? Is it the business climate? Is it the regulation? Is it the talent pool? And asking such questions is very important because you cannot take economic projections for granted. You need to assess and tweak as you go. Because one black swan event could change all of it. Like the Wuhan virus pandemic in 2020. One bad policy could set us back by years. So now is the time to keep your head down and work. Maybe take a leaf out of China's book in the 1970s. Bide your time. Which brings us to China and its decline. Why can't they reverse it? Because their priorities have shifted. And by they, I mean the Chinese leadership, more specifically Xi Jinping. In the 1990s, China was all about reform and opening up. But now with Xi at the helm, territorial battles have taken precedence. It seems they're more important than economic growth for him. Case in point, Taiwan. Beijing wants to take Taiwan. And look at what happened today. Xi Jinping met Ma Ying-jeou. He was Taiwan's president from 2008 to 2016. Ma traveled to Beijing for this meeting, and it was the first of its kind. Since 1949, since the People's Republic of China was established, no Chinese president has invited a former leader of Taiwan to Beijing. Tells you why this meeting is making waves. So what did they discuss? The reunification of Taiwan.
The distance of Taiwan Strait cannot separate the blood and flesh ties of both sides. Differences in our systems cannot change the objective facts that both sides of the Taiwan Strait belong to the same nation, the same ethnicity. Foreign interference cannot stop the historic event of a family reunion.
He's calling it a family reunion. Xi Jinping was amicable in his tone, but the purpose of this meeting is far from friendly. The Chinese president wants Taiwan to surrender. He wants to send a message to the island that they must agree to reunification or else. And for this purpose, Ma is a useful tool for Beijing. When he was Taiwan's president, he backed the idea of reunification, and even today, he is of the same opinion. He believes that Taiwan will have a better future if it is closely aligned with China.
Young people represent the future of the Chinese nation, as they are able to establish friendships at an earlier stage of their lives, which will certainly build a solid foundation for the sustainable peace and stability between both sides of the Taiwan Strait.
The last meeting between Xi Jinping and Ma Ying-jeou was in the year 2015, when Ma was still serving as Taiwan's president. After he left office, Xi Jinping stopped engaging with Taipei. He froze all high-level communication. Now, by bringing Ma to Beijing, he's setting the new terms of engagement. Xi Jinping won't accept anything less than reunification. But there's a slight problem. The people of Taiwan reject this. Leaders like Ma Ying-jeou are in the minority. Most Taiwanese citizens want independence from China. They support democratic leaders like Lai Ching-te. He's the incoming president of Taiwan. He won the election earlier this year, despite Beijing's best efforts. He won the election. Now, Beijing calls Lai a dangerous separatist. And before he takes oath, China is trying to build pressure on him. Soon after his victory, Beijing has launched a campaign with two clear goals. One was to isolate Taiwan, and the second, to raise the threat of invasion. In January, they succeeded in poaching an ally of Taiwan, the Pacific island of Nauru. They shifted allegiances from Taipei to Beijing. They were one of the few countries that officially recognized Taiwan. Now they do not do that anymore. Then Chinese airlines started operating civilian flights closer to the island. This is being done without Taipei's consent. And military pressure on Taiwan has also escalated. There is now a large Chinese military presence around Taiwan.
In addition to the dispute between the Philippines and China, I think everyone also knows that China has already constructed quite enormous South China Sea military bases on the three islands surrounding Taiping, Subi Reef, Fiery Cross Reef and Mischief Reef, which are all quite close to our Taiping Island. We have to include this situation in our general considerations.
A few weeks ago, some satellite pictures emerged. This is a Chinese desert, but the PLA has turned it into a training site. For what? It is believed that China uses this facility to practice for a potential invasion of Taiwan. Now look closely at these satellite pictures. This looks a lot like Taipei, especially the presidential office building in Taipei. Now experts say this mock-up is quite realistic. China has recreated the area around the presidential palace, the presidential office rather, including the roads that lead up to it. Why would the PLA need such an elaborate setup if they wanted peaceful reunification with Taiwan? The odds are stacked heavily against Beijing in this case, which is why they made a significant shift in March this year, last month. That's when the Chinese parliament met. They dropped the mention of peaceful reunification altogether. Clearly, they're exploring military alternatives. And this replica of Taipei inside China signals Xi Jinping's growing appetite for conflict. He may be recruiting friends from the island, but ultimately he's also setting the stage to attack them. Vantage continues after a short break.
Now, amid the ongoing row around Katchatheevu Island, Congress's Digvijay Singh has stoked a fresh row. He's questioning the importance of the Katchatheevu Island. Digvijay Singh, in fact, said that the issue is nonsense and questioned if anyone even lives on the island at all. Digvijay Singh's comment has now come as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his public rally in Tamil Nadu, referred to the issue once again and said that the Congress gave away Katchatheevu Island to Sri Lanka. BJP has in fact lashed out at the Congress party after Digvijay Singh's comments, and Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai said that the remark has exposed Congress's mindset and that this mindset has caused the Aksaichin loss for India. He even demanded an apology from the grand old party. In fact, Kangana Ranaut, one of BJP's star campaigners, has also slammed the remark, saying that the same Congress mindset has led to underdevelopment in rural areas during this rule. In fact, staying on the story, we have some breaking inputs coming in.
एक बात सुन लीजिए, वहां के उस द्वीप पे कोई रहता है क्या? मैं पूछना चाहता हूं.
All right, we're getting in breaking inputs. In fact, CNN News 18 has spoken to Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav with regards to Digvijay Singh's remarks on Katchatheevu. The Chief Minister, in fact, has said that Digvijay Singh has always practiced politics of national disinterest. He says that people will answer back as far as Digvijay Singh is concerned. Let's also listen in to what the Madhya Pradesh CM has to say.
सर, छिंदवाड़ा की जनता क्या कह रही है?
छिंदवाड़ा की जनता कह रही है कि कमलनाथ हार रहे हैं, भाजपा जीत रही है. आप उसका दृश्य देख रहे हैं. एक ही परिवार का 45 साल तक कब्जा टूटने जा रहा है और भाजपा भारी बहुमत से जीतेगी.
अच्छा, अभी थोड़ी देर पहले कमलनाथ जी एक सभा
Let's look further east towards South Korea. South Korea held its 22nd general election today. 300 parliamentary seats were on the ballot and millions of Korean citizens turned up to vote. More than 14,000 polling stations were set up for the public, including some unusual ones like a Kia car showroom, an optical store and a cafe. In at least one area, a baseball batting cage was converted into a polling booth. South Korea's election commission definitely scored a home run, unlike the president's party. You see, South Korea has a twin-headed system. You have the president and the parliament, and both are elected, the president and the parliament, and they usually cannot work without each other, which is why this election was crucial for the president, Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon has been in power since the year 2022, but his party has not controlled the parliament, which makes him a bit of a lame duck. He wanted to change that with this election and lead his party, the People Power Party, to a majority. But early results indicate that his hold on power will get even shakier. Counting has begun. We'll get the final results tomorrow morning. But the exit polls are in and the opposition is expecting a landslide, which means these people in the blue baseball jackets, they are members of the Democratic Party of Korea, seen here clapping and cheering. That banner on display, it says April 10th, Judgment Day for Yoon Suk-yeol's administration. which is what this election had become, a referendum on President Yoon's 2 years in office. And it seems that the voters have decided to punish him.
지금 정부가 굉장히
I think the current government is heading in a very wrong direction. I believe the right people need to be in politics. I think there needs to be some change, some transformation.
모든 분들이 정치를 해야 되지 않을까.
So why are South Koreans unhappy with their president? Well, there are a number of reasons, but here's a quick list. We start with the Dior scandal involving First Lady Kim Kyun-hee. Hidden camera footage of the First Lady was released last year. She was seen accepting a luxury handbag as a gift. A Lady Dior bag worth about $2,200. And this violated South Korean law. There's a limit to what a government official or their spouse can accept. No gifts worth more than $750 are allowed. So this video caused an uproar when it came out because this gift was worth more than $2,000. But the First Lady was not punished. Excuses were made for her actions, and she has not been making public appearances since. But today's election shows that the people have not forgotten or forgiven. And that wasn't President Yoon's only scandal. Another involved his former defense minister, Lee Jong-suk. The minister was under investigation over the death of a soldier during flood rescue efforts last year. Now, this is a sensitive topic. So what President Yoon did last month made no sense whatsoever. The same former defense minister was made South Korea's ambassador to Australia, and it caused an uproar. It looked like Yoon was shielding his colleague. The ambassador was then forced to resign in under a month. But the damage was done. That was strike 2. And strike 3 was a foot-in-the-mouth moment for the president himself. Last month, the South Korean president went to a grocery store. He looked at a bunch of spring onions, and then he said that the price was reasonable, and that was the gaffe. You see, the price he quoted was 875 won. That's about 65 cents. And it was reasonable, 65 cents. But only because of a temporary government subsidy. This was a heavily discounted price compared to the average of about $2 to $3 per bunch. And this led to an outpouring of public anger. People took to the streets with spring onions in their hands. It became a rallying cry, highlighting Yoon's failure to bring down the cost of living. In fact, it got so bad that South Korea even made a new election rule. People were barred from bringing onions into polling booths. But again, the damage was done. It seems onions have brought tears to Yoon and his party. He's staring at a hostile parliament, 3 more years as a lame duck, and maybe his party losing the presidency when his term ends. So it's a dance of democracy in South Korea, but elsewhere people are rejecting it. I'm talking about Nepal. On Tuesday, hundreds of protesters hit the streets of Kathmandu. And what did they want? Well, 2 things. 1, to bring the monarchy back, and 2, to make Nepal a Hindu state. Now, the turnout was quite impressive in this protest. Protesters waved flags and chanted slogans, but soon things turned violent. Cannons and batons. Take a look.
भेला भएर हामी यो व्यवस्थाको विरुद्धमा आएको छौँ, गणतन्त्रको विरुद्धमा आएको छौँ, संहिताको विरुद्धमा आएको छौँ। हाम्रो मुख्य एजेन्डा भनेको नै हिन्दू राज्य कायम गर्नु पर्यो।
How about that? Demanding a king in 2024. But what explains these demands? Well, there is context to it. For most of its history, Nepal was a Hindu kingdom. The last king was this man, Gyanendra. He was forced to abdicate after major protests in 2006. After that, 2 changes happened. The monarchy was replaced by a republic, and the new constitution guaranteed secularism. So Nepal is not a Hindu state anymore. But has this change worked? Well, stability has evaded Nepal. They've had 13 governments since the king abdicated. That's 13 governments in 18 years. So the people of Nepal have every reason to be angry. But is monarchy the answer? Mainstream parties do not think so. All of them have rejected this possibility. But one party has not. the same party that is leading this movement. It's called the Rashtriya Prajatantra Party, or National Democratic Party. It was founded in the 1990s by supporters of the king. Today, it's the fifth largest in parliament. Out of 275 lawmakers, this party has 14. Now, just to be clear, they're not asking for absolute monarchy. They're not saying cancel the republic. The Prime Minister will remain, the cabinet will remain, and so will the parliament. But instead of the president, a king would be head of state. A bit like Britain, that's the demand. Royalists say it will provide stability and protect Nepal's culture. Now, we've already discussed why this is a bad idea. Nepal's polity is already fragile. The last thing you need is a king. And that too a king with a tendency for autocracy. But tonight, let's focus on another aspect. The geopolitical impact of these protests. For example, how should India see this? We're talking about a neighboring country here. India and Nepal share a pretty long border. It's more than 1,850 kilometers long. So instability there is worrying. It could affect trade and people-to-people exchanges. The other factor is influence. And there are two camps here. One group says a Hindu Nepal would benefit India. It would stifle the pro-China communists. Another group says it's a slippery slope. If you abolish secularism, there will be global pushback, maybe even economic sanctions. And that could push Nepal closer to China. After all, Beijing does not care about secularism. So sanctions for that matter. So this debate is likely to be a long one. Nepal did try to resolve it once in 2015. Like now, many protesters wanted to abolish secularism, to remove it from the draft constitution. So the Constituent Assembly voted on it. And guess what? 2/3 of the lawmakers voted against it. The main opposition comes from the communist parties. They have vehemently opposed a Hindu state. But another mainstream party is warming up to the idea, and that's the Nepali Congress. The top leadership still doesn't like the idea. But one faction does. In February, they launched a campaign to restore a Hindu state, and that's the key here. As long as mainstream parties disagree, this movement won't take off. But if they buy in, who knows? Stranger things have happened. Vantage continues after a short break.
Now, amid the ongoing row around Katchatheevu Island, Congress's Digvijay Singh has stoked a fresh row. He's questioning the importance of the Katchatheevu Island. Digvijay Singh, in fact, said that the issue is nonsense and questioned if anyone even lives on the island at all. Digvijay Singh's comment has now come as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his public rally in Tamil Nadu, referred to the issue once again and said that the Congress gave away Katchatheevu Island to Sri Lanka. BJP has in fact lashed out at the Congress party after Digvijay Singh's comments, and Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai said that the remark has exposed Congress's mindset and that this mindset has caused the Aksaichin loss for India. He even demanded an apology from the Grand Old Party. In fact, Kangana Ranaut, one of BJP's star campaigners, has also slammed the remark, saying that the same Congress mindset has led to underdevelopment in rural areas during this rule. In fact, staying on the story, we have some breaking inputs coming in.
एक बात सुन लीजिए, वहां के उस द्वीप पे कोई रहता है क्या? मैं पूछना चाहता हूं.
All right, we're getting in breaking inputs. In fact, CNN News 18 has spoken to Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav with regards to Digvijay Singh's remarks on Katchatheevu. The Chief Minister, in fact, has said that Digvijay Singh has always practiced politics of national...
Talking about democracy, The world's largest democracy is heading to polls. 986 million Indians will vote soon, and observing them will be global parties. India's ruling party has invited 25 of them. 13 have confirmed their presence. They will be given a ringside view of the election. So who's on the list? I'll tell you who's not. The likes of China, Pakistan and the United States. And why is that? Which countries will observe India's polls? What role will they play? And has India ever acted as an election observer in other countries? Our next report tells you.
Elections, they are the cornerstone of any democracy. But the electoral process is not easy. Its integrity faces many challenges. There are irregularities, fraud and coercion, all to derail free and fair elections. India is heading to polls. It's the world's largest democracy, which makes this the world's largest election. It's a mammoth electoral exercise, and it needs observers. India's election body already has poll observers, but now India has invited global parties. India's ruling party, the BJP, has invited 25 global parties. 13 of them have confirmed their visits. Indian elections have had foreign observers in the past. So who's on the list this time? Bangladesh's Awami League, the UK's Conservative and Labour parties, Germany's Christian Democrats and Social Democrats, all major parties of Nepal, Sri Lanka's top political parties. They have all been invited to observe the elections. They will be given a brief, taken to various constituencies, and given a ringside view of the electoral process. So, who's not invited? No party from Pakistan is on the list. Not surprising, given the tensions between the two countries. China's Communist Party has also not been invited. But even top US parties have been left out, both the Republicans and the Democrats. Why? Reports suggest it's because they will be busy with their own presidential elections later this year. Which brings us to the concept of election observers. They observe elections, they provide inputs, they act as impartial witnesses to the electoral process. They may not prevent malpractice, but help report it. Election observers are of two kinds, national and international. Internal observers include polling booth officials, officials from other parties, and independent witnesses. Then there are international observers. They judge the legitimacy of a country's election. They look at whether it's free and fair. The concept of international observers is fairly new. Until World War II, it wasn't very common. During the 1960s, less than 10% of elections were monitored. But it gained steam after the Cold War. The East-West divide gave an economic context to democratic elections. Free elections were linked to a free market, so the West set the rules. By the 2000s, about 80% of all elections were observed. Often, countries send their observers. Sometimes it's conducted by international organizations, regional bodies and NGOs. India is no stranger to international observers. It's a role the country has played many times. India has observed elections in many countries like Egypt, Venezuela, Mexico, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, South Africa, Kenya, Cambodia and many others. So this time, India has invited global parties, offering them a front row seat to the dance of democracy, as the world's largest democracy goes to polls.
Vantage continues after a short break.
Now, amid the ongoing row around Katchatheevu Island, Congress's Digvijay Singh has stoked a fresh row. He's questioning the importance of the Katchatheevu Island. Digvijay Singh, in fact, said that the issue is nonsense and questioned if anyone even lives on the island at all. Digvijay Singh's comment has now come as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his public rally in Tamil Nadu, referred to the issue once again and said that the Congress gave away Katchatheevu Island to Sri Lanka. BJP has in fact lashed out at the Congress party.
Meanwhile, there is a new terror threat in Europe. It comes from the ISIS or the Islamic State. Their target is football, specifically the Champions League. It is Europe's biggest football competition. and it's on as we speak. The tournament has entered the quarter-final stage. 4 important matches are being played this week in 3 different cities. London and Paris are hosting 1 game each, and the third host is Madrid. 2 games will be played in Madrid. Now, the ISIS has threatened to strike all 4 venues. The threat was issued online. The games feature marquee teams like Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Manchester City, Arsenal and Bayern Munich. So the stadiums will be packed. Thousands of fans will show up to support their teams, which makes these matches high-profile targets. The warning from ISIS came on Monday. It was a social media post featuring the 4 venues where the games will be held. The post also had a picture of a man with a gun with the words, "Kill them all." But the organizers are undeterred. That's UEFA, the organizers, the Union of European Football Associations. They've decided that they will not cancel the games. All 3 cities have stepped up security. The French Interior Minister has spoken about it.
We have seen, among others, a statement from the Islamic State, which is particularly targeting stadiums. This is nothing new. Obviously, when it comes to important events like the Champions League for football, we have a discussion with our partners. This morning, we asked the General Director of Interior Security to communicate the information we have with other security services of the countries hosting the quarter-finals. For the game that will take place in Paris, the Prefect of Police, with whom I spoke very early this morning, has considerably reinforced the security resources.
The French in particular are vigilant because they've seen an attack in the past. 9 years ago, ISIS suicide bombers attacked a football game in France. It happened during a friendly match. France was playing Germany at Stade de France. The then president, François Hollande, was among the attendees. He was watching the game when the bombs went off. A total of 3 bombs were detonated. 2 explosions happened outside the stadium. The attackers arrived at different entrances wearing suicide vests. The third one blew himself up at a fast food joint close to the stadium. And this was just the beginning. Soon after these explosions, ISIS terrorists went on a shooting spree in Paris. They targeted a concert hall and multiple restaurants and bars. More than 130 people died that night. Now, once again, the ISIS is back, and it's threatening to strike high-profile targets again. Last month's attack has probably emboldened the group. Yes, I'm talking about the Moscow attack. In the month of March, they struck a concert hall near Moscow. Terrorists stormed the venue with automatic weapons. At least 60 people were killed. This was Russia's deadliest attack in decades. Islamic State Khorasan claimed responsibility for it. This is an ISIS affiliate based in Afghanistan. The attack in Russia underscored how tricky it is to deal with such threats. The ISIS has no centralized structure or command. It operates through faceless entities. Its members use the internet to recruit lone wolves, and they order strikes. So the next attack could come from anywhere. Just this week, the Americans said they neutralized one such threat. An 18-year-old was arrested in Idaho. His name is Alexander Mercurio. Reports say he had pledged loyalty to ISIS and he was planning to strike a number of churches in the US using weapons like guns, explosives and knives. And that puts the US, Russia and Europe in the same bracket really, struggling to contain the ISIS and equally vulnerable. We do hope the matches in Europe conclude without incident. Our next story comes from Venezuela, a country in South America with a reputation for being one of the most corrupt nations in the world. But contrary to nature, its government is cracking down on embezzlement. Since last year, a number of top officials have been pulled up for allegedly siphoning off billions of dollars in oil proceeds. There have been investigations, resignations, and now a major arrest. The country's former oil minister and confidant of President Nicolas Maduro has been arrested. So what's behind the purge? And will the presidential election scheduled for July, does the timing have a role to play here? Our next report tells you.
This is Tariq El-Aissami, Venezuela's former oil minister, a once powerful oil czar and confidant of President Nicolas Maduro. Over time, El-Aissami has fallen from grace, and now he's in handcuffs. El-Aissami was arrested over allegations of corruption. And he's not the only one. Former Finance Minister Simon Zerpa and businessman Samark Lopez have been arrested as well.
The public ministry in the next few hours will charge these 3 detainees with the crimes of treason, appropriation or distraction of public property, flaunting of relationships and influence, and money laundering and association, a plurality of crimes that will culminate in an exemplary punishment for these scoundrels.
Their arrests are part of a wider government purge. There are charges against more than 50 people, including Venezuela's most important business and political figures. Why? For their role in an alleged plot to make hundreds of millions of dollars in oil proceeds disappear. Here's what happened. According to the nation's top prosecutor, former oil minister Al-Aissami and his co-conspirators were selling Venezuelan oil. They signed contracts with the state oil major, loaded the crude on ships, and sold the oil. But not all payments were made to the oil company, because the former ministers didn't pass the funds to the country's central bank. They directly managed the shipments of crude. Plus, they received dividends from the sale and traded these sums of money to convert them to crypto assets, which regulatory bodies could not trace. The Venezuelan big guns reportedly misused their positions to carry out these illegal operations and made huge profits. Al-Aissami reportedly used the illicit funds to work on his private houses. Some used it to fund their political campaigns. But just how much money was going around? The government has not declared the exact sum, but reports say as of 2022, the state oil company was owed tens of billions of dollars, which left a large hole in its accounts. So an investigation began in March last year, and it shook Venezuela. Amid a slew of charges, Al-Aissami resigned from his position, and now, a year later, he has been arrested. It's a remarkable reversal of fortune for one of Venezuela's most powerful men. Corruption is rampant in Venezuela. The South American nation is considered one of the most corrupt in the world. That's according to the Corruption Perception Index. So, why are corrupt leaders suddenly in trouble? The timing is crucial. President Maduro is running for re-election in July this year. So, is this an image cleanup exercise for him? Or have his aides simply fallen out of favor? And the big question is, will the probe uncover the slime, or will it be an eyewash?
Vantage continues after a short break.
Now, amid the ongoing row around Katchatheevu Island, Congress's Digvijay Singh has stoked a fresh row. He's questioning the importance of the Katchatheevu Island. Digvijay Singh, in fact, said that the issue is nonsense and questioned if anyone even lives on the island at all. Digvijay Singh's comment has now come as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his public rally in Tamil Nadu, referred to the issue once again and said that the Congress gave away Katchatheevu Island to Sri Lanka. BJP has in fact lashed out at the Congress party after Digvijay Singh's comments, and Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai said that the remark has exposed Congress's mindset and that this mindset has caused the Aksaichin loss for India. He even demanded an apology from the Grand Old Party. In fact, Kangana Ranaut, one of BJP's star campaigners, has also slammed the remark, saying that the same Congress mindset has led to underdevelopment in rural areas during this rule. In fact, staying on the story, we have some breaking inputs coming in.
एक बात सुन लीजिए, वहां के उस द्वीप पे कोई रहता है क्या? मैं पूछना चाहता हूं.
All right, we're getting in breaking inputs. In fact, CNN News 18 has spoken to Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav with regards to Digvijay Singh's remarks on Katchatheevu. The Chief Minister, in fact, has said that Digvijay Singh has always practiced politics of national disinterest. He says that people will answer back as far as Digvijay Singh is concerned. Let's also listen in to what the Madhya Pradesh CM has to say.
सर, छिंदवाड़ा की जनता क्या कह रही है?
छिंदवाड़ा की जनता कह रही है कि कमलनाथ हार रहे हैं, भाजपा जीत रही है. आप उसका दृश्य देख रहे हैं. एक ही परिवार का 45 साल तक कब्जा टूटने जा रहा है और भाजपा भारी बहुमत से जीतेगी.
अच्छा, अभी थोड़ी देर पहले कमलनाथ जी एक सभा
Our next story is from South Africa. It's heading into an election and it just got more unpredictable. Former President Jacob Zuma is back in the running. He has a new party. He's got the go-ahead from courts and he's ready to take revenge. The ruling ANC, the African National Congress, should watch out because Zuma is a wild card who could end their 3 decades in power. Tonight we'll discuss how. South Africa goes to polls on May 29th. It will be the closest fought election in decades. For the first time since 1994, the ANC is under threat. They haven't been challenged for decades because of the goodwill generated by Nelson Mandela. Mandela was an ANC stalwart. He fought against the tyranny of apartheid, the institutionalized racism that was prevalent in South Africa before 1994. He fought against it. Mandela's African National Congress helped end apartheid. And as a reward, the party has been in power ever since. For 30 years now, they've held on to power. It's facing pressure this time. South Africans are angry at poor economic growth, widespread corruption, a failure of public services and rising crime. And they blame the ANC for all of this. So for the first time, the party may not win an absolute majority. Opinion polls say they will get less than 50% of the vote. So they're scrambling to retain power. What makes their situation worse is Jacob Zuma. Zuma was an ANC member. The party even made him president. Between 2009 and 2018, he was the South African president, but numerous corruption scandals piled up under him. Zuma was close to an Indian origin business family, the Guptas. Zuma allegedly let them take over the running of South Africa. It was called state capture. In fact, Zuma was even nicknamed Zupta because of his ties to the Guptas. The scandal led to his downfall and his resignation in 2018. The ANC replaced Zuma with the current president, that's Cyril Ramaphosa, his longtime rival. And adding insult to injury, Zuma is also being investigated in a number of corruption cases. So far, he's not been convicted in any of these crimes. Despite this, he was sentenced to 15 months in prison for contempt of court. In 2021, Zuma had refused to cooperate with an ongoing corruption probe. He was sentenced to 15 months in prison for this defiance. So to recap, Jacob Zuma was ousted from power, replaced by a rival, investigated for corruption, and sent to prison for contempt. You can see why he would want revenge. Zuma has joined a new political party, the MK Party, and he has vowed to take down Ramaphosa's government. And this has shaken the ruling ANC because Zuma still holds a lot of clout in South Africa. He's 81 years old, 82 on Friday. He is accused in a number of corruption cases and he has broken with the party that helped him to power. Despite all of this, he's still quite popular. He's a charismatic politician, still capable of bringing in the crowds and getting them to their feet with his trademark song, a revolutionary song called Bring My Machine. It's rare to see an 81-year-old dance like that. Can you imagine Joe Biden doing that, even though he's the same age? But somehow, Jacob Zuma manages, and it helps him win over some hearts. Zuma commands the loyalty of a large section of voters, especially people from his Zulu community. They make up a large part of South Africa's electorate, meaning he could siphon votes from the ANC. How many votes? Zuma's party is expected to win 10 to 15% of the total vote share, and most of this would be at the ANC's expense, almost ensuring that the ruling party does not win a majority. Which is why the ANC seems to be targeting Zuma. They've tried to have his new party, MK Party, disqualified. They raised objections to him standing for the election. He was even barred for a while, but yesterday the objections were overturned and Zuma won his appeal. So he will contest the election in May. And this entire episode could even work out in his favor, get him some extra sympathy votes. Now, Zuma is not eligible to become president again because he's already served the 2-term limit. But he could very well become South Africa's kingmaker. And if that happens, President Cyril Ramaphosa is in trouble. because his old rival Jacob Zuma may end up having the last laugh. For our next story, let's turn to AI, artificial intelligence. It holds a lot of promise. AI has improved cancer screenings, written code for apps, even trained itself. The technology is helping the world in momentous ways. But this is not without some quirks. With great offerings also come silly ones, like AI in shoes, in pillows, even toothbrushes. Here's a report.
Whenever new technology comes up, we get excited. We rush to try new tech. Some of these new tech ideas are good, but there are also some bizarre ideas in the mix. This applies to artificial intelligence as well. Pardon the pun, but truth be told, things are getting a little too weird. Because this is AI's recent offering, a toothbrush. It costs $400. What does it do? It has a quote-unquote AI position detection, which is basically tech jargon for sensors that detect which tooth you're brushing. The human body already has these sensors. They're called nerves. But back to AI. There is a screen on the toothbrush. It tells you if you're brushing with the proper level of strength. The information reflects on an app on your phone as well, which shows a 3D image of your teeth and collects this information. Now, if you want daily grades for your brushing, maybe this sounds like a great product. But this isn't the only silly route that AI has taken. They detect snoring, then pump air into different pillow compartments to gently lift the head. This alleviates a person snoring without their partner having to kick them in the middle of the night. Then there are AI vacuum cleaners, AI washing machines, even AI bird feeders. These cost $100 and detect birds. Too bad they won't help with thievish squirrels. And if you don't want to walk, AI can do that as well. There are AI-powered electric shoes. They function like any other shoe, but they cost $1,000 because they automate walking. With one slight movement, you can speed up or slow down walking. So you wear the shoes as the overuse of technology wears your body down. But apart from strange AI offerings, there are some that have been a complete flop. And we aren't saying this, Amazon is. It launched cashierless grocery stores where you grab products from store shelves. AI detects what you have picked through constant monitoring from sensors and cameras and automatically charges you for it. So you don't need to scan the items or pay at the register. It sounds seamless, but problems occur when the AI software charges you for something you haven't picked, which is exactly what happened. Now Amazon has admitted that the tech has been a flop. So some AI offerings have completely failed. But even some successful ones have joined forces to waste time, like McDonald's and FedEx asking job applicants to take personality evaluations and then get mandatory AI personas based on the results. Or the New York mayoral office using an AI chatbot that is malfunctioning repeatedly. With AI mania looming large, companies are racing to meet the frenzy to stay current and prove to their stakeholders that they can keep up. This is great because AI does have its benefits. But the problem is that it can also suck your time, energy, money, and most importantly, your data.
Vantage continues after a short break.
Now, amid the ongoing row around Katchatheevu Island, Congress's Digvijay Singh has stoked a fresh row. He's questioning the importance of the Katchatheevu Island. Digvijay Singh, in fact, said that the issue is nonsense and questioned if anyone even lives on the island at all. Digvijay Singh's comment has now come as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his public rally in Tamil Nadu, referred to the issue once again and said that the Congress gave away Katchatheevu Island to Sri Lanka. BJP has in fact lashed out at the Congress party after Digvijay Singh's comments, and Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai said that the remark has exposed Congress's mindset and that this mindset has caused the Aksaichin loss for India. He even demanded an apology from the grand old party. In fact, Kangana Ranaut, one of BJP's star campaigners, has also slammed the remark, saying that the same Congress mindset has led to underdevelopment in rural areas during this rule. In fact, staying on the story, we have some breaking inputs coming in.
एक बात सुन लीजिए, वहाँ के उस द्वीप पे कोई रहता है क्या, मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ।
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Jerusalem, thousands offer Eid prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque amid the Gaza war. In Indonesia, millions brave mass traffic jams to head back home for Eid. And a volcano in Ireland continues to spew lava and smoke since its eruption last month. Finally, we're taking you back in history on this day. In 1912, the Titanic set sail from England. It was on its maiden voyage to New York. At that time, it was the world's largest ship. Within a few days, the luxury liner hit an iceberg and sunk, killing 1,500 passengers on board. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
سمع الله لمن حمده لك الحمد والنجم والشجر.
Now, amid the ongoing row around Katchatheevu Island, Congress's Digvijay Singh has stoked a fresh row. He's questioning the importance of the Katchatheevu Island. Digvijay Singh, in fact, said that the issue is nonsense and questioned if anyone even lives on the island at all. Digvijay Singh's comment has now come as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his public rally in Tamil Nadu, referred to the issue once again.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwa. Ladies and gentlemen, our top story, an explosive interview from Prime Minister Modi to the American outlet Newsweek. And Prime Minister Modi has said that minority discrimination, the prime charge that comes in from the opposition camp, which has championed the cause, primarily the Congress party in its latest manifesto. Now, Prime Minister Modi has countered the claims that minority discrimination is on the rise under his government. He has said, and I quote, "These are usual tropes of some people who don't bother to meet people outside their bubbles. Even India's minorities don't buy this narrative anymore. Minorities from all religions, be it Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Sikh, Jain, or even a micro-minority like Parsis are living happily and thriving in India." On ties with China also, Prime Minister Modi has said in this interview, he has said that stable and peaceful relations between India and China are important for not just our two countries, but the entire region and the world. I hope and believe that through positive and constructive bilateral engagements at the diplomatic and military levels, we will be able to restore and sustain peace and tranquility in our borders. So Prime Minister Modi talking about minority on with China, with the Xi Jinping regime. Prime Minister Modi also spoke on the issue of Pakistan and India's friction with its neighbor. The Prime Minister has said that India has always advocated for advancing peace, security and prosperity in our region in an atmosphere free from terror and violence post the revocation of Article 370. He's also made certain remarks about that. I'm joined by my colleague Aman Sharma on the broadcast when it comes to the different tonalities as well as the different issues being put forward by Prime Minister Modi in this huge interview to Newsweek. So Aman, when it comes to the minority question, Prime Minister Modi saying that when it comes to the attacks from the Congress camp, especially the opposition camp, with the Congress party going hammer and tongs with the minority issue in its manifesto, which it put out a few. Mr. Modi is saying that this entire narrative is just an echo chamber for certain political parties. At the end of the day, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas has been his governance mantra since 2014.
Well, Ayushman, if you see, the Prime Minister was basically asked about this, perception that the minorities are not safe in India, and the Newsweek in this interview when it asked the Prime Minister that, he is very clear that, see, even India's minorities are not buying this narrative anymore. He said, be it minorities of any religion, be it the Muslims, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Sikhs, or even a micro minority like Parsis, everybody is living happily and thriving in India. Is also cited how his government schemes, which have come through a unique saturation coverage approach, that everybody is getting these schemes, benefits of these schemes without any bias. It is not restricted to any group of people. These schemes reach everybody, and that is the best idea of secularism. Prime Minister earlier mentioned in earlier of his speeches that, be it amenities like house, toilets, water connections, cooking fuel,